It wasn't pretty, but it was a win. Pacers go into D.C., their final game before the All-Star break, and survive. The perfect phrase for it. Survive the Washington Wizards 134-130 in overtime in an insane basketball game. You can say anything you want about the 9-win Washington Wizards, who, yes, are not a very good team. They made 23 of their 45 three-pointers in this game. 51.1%. A franchise record, I believe. 23 made threes. The first time this season the Wizards have shot over 50% from deep. In fact, the Wizards, who are not very good, entered the day 4-1 when they were over 45% from deep in a game. 51% is a death sentence, and the Pacers had to deal with it. They did it to themselves a little bit. They lost Corey Kispert way too much. He hit 5 of those threes, but Jordan Poole drilled 6. Some of those were tough. Bub Carrington hit 4. Alex Sarr hit 2. Keyshawn George hit 3. He's not been a great shooter this year. So in some ways, this should have been a Wizards win. In other ways, the Pacers' resilience was just brilliant in this game. They stunk in a lot of ways in the first half. Pacers' defense was not good. They gave up 60 points. A lot of that was that shooting I already mentioned. But their offense was really flimsy in the first half. 47 points at halftime for the Pacers. They weren't getting enough from their stars. One of Pascal Siakam's worst games of the season, shooting 31%. Halliburton didn't get going in the first half. They didn't really have a consistent scoring threat. They had some guys who popped in here and there with some nice stretches to make it not embarrassing. But the Pacers' offense was really slow. They couldn't keep up with this hot shooting. And in the third quarter, the Wizards scored 37 points. And in the middle of the third quarter, I think many thought this one was over. Wizards were up by 19 at that point. That went on to be their biggest lead of the game. But a crucial thing happened right around that time. Ben Mathurin came into this game at 56-74. Pacers were down 18 with 7:46 to go in the third quarter. Obi Toppin had checked in not too long before that. He checked in at 56-70. And then the Wizards' peak lead came at 59-78. And that was with 6 minutes and 26 seconds to go in the third quarter. Just before that, Obi Toppin, who had 11 points at halftime, which led the Pacers, hit a 3 with 7 minutes to go. Right after the Wizards went up by 19, Obi Toppin hit another 3. And then on the next possession, Mathurin drove and scored. And then Toppin hit another 3 to cut it to 13. And then he had a finger roll layup. And then he had another layup with 3:56 to go. And the Wizards took a timeout. And it was a 12-point game. Pacers were still down. They still were not having a good third quarter on the whole. But in that stretch from 7:04 to go, in the third quarter to the 3:56 mark. So 3 minutes and 8 seconds of play. Toppin went from 11 points to 24. He scored 13 points just in over 3 minutes. Massive stretch to keep the Pacers in it. Pacers defense was still terrible that whole time, but that offensive stretch gave the Pacers a chance. Then he scored again to make it 73-85, and he got fouled, hit a free throw, right? Kept it going, got to 28 points. It was a 10-point game with 2.5 minutes to go. But they needed someone else to step up, and it was Ben Mathurin time. Corey Kispert hit a 3 to make it a 15-point Wizards lead with 95 seconds to go in the third quarter. Looked like a dismal Pacers loss was coming. Then Mathurin, who had 4 points at the time of this flurry, hits a floater, draws a foul and hit both free throws, hit another floater and a 3 in the final 83 seconds of the quarter. 9 points in 83 seconds there. And so the Pacers were still down 13 after 3 quarters. You could look at a 37-37 third and say that's a bad quarter for the Pacers. It was. But 2 players saved them and gave them a puncher's chance. If those 2 did not have maybe their best stretches of certain times of the season, they would not have had a good. They'd have been over. It would have been over. Instead, they were close enough. And Mathurin hit another 3, 15 seconds into the fourth. A couple baskets later, they were within 10. Within 10 always feels winnable. The Pacers would not have been within 10, not have had that same gusto and feel had those runs not happened from those 2 in the third. And so in the fourth, they just were much better on both ends. Better defense. The Wizards stopped hitting everything. And Mathurin and Thomas Bryant and Ben Sheppard. I think the lineup to start the fourth was T.J. McConnell, Ben Sheppard, Ben Mathurin, Pascal Siakam, and Thomas Bryant. They were great. Energy, defense. They scored almost every trip. And all of a sudden, with 8 minutes to go, it's a 2-point game. Wizards take a timeout, and the Pacers can win it. And they wouldn't have had that chance if it wasn't for those 2 stretches from Mathurin and Toppin. The rest of the game, right, it took the Pacers a bit to actually tie it. When they were down 2 there, they didn't tie it till there was 5 minutes to go. You could argue from that point, after that stretch from those guys who were all energy to start the fourth, who came out with 6.5 minutes to go down by 2, the rest of the game was basically even. The Pacers did just enough. Big three from Haliburton to tie it. Siakam did a few things here and there. Mathurin kept scoring. Nembhard hit some big free throws and played good defense late. Pacers had a lead and actually choked it away in the final minute, but they did just enough in the fourth quarter to pull off this comeback, and none of it would have been possible without the play of Obi Toppin and Ben Mathurin. Clutch free throws from Nembhard got them to overtime, and then in overtime, the Pacers almost vomited all over themselves. They go up as much as 9 in the overtime period. I believe it was 9. It might have been 8. Regardless, they play, 131-122 is their biggest overtime lead after an Obi Toppin 3. They almost ruined it. Alex Sarr hit a 3, then Jordan Poole hit a 3. Of course, it was the threes for the Wizards, keeping them in it, but just enough from the Pacers with 3 late free throws from Siakam, and they hold on. This will be remembered as a win. They scored 134 points. They survived a team that just couldn't miss from 3, and it was all possible because of 2 guys, right? Like I said, before that stretch where Mathurin got going crazy in the final, 80-something seconds of the third quarter, he had 4 points. He finished the game with 28, so he had 24 points in the last, if you count the overtime 5 minutes, like 18 and a half minutes of this game. He was balling, hitting threes, decent passing, just whatever he wanted. Some very tough shots. He was terrific in that stretch. Only Pascal Siakam played more minutes than Ben Mathurin did off the bench today. Obi Toppin, his season high coming in today was, I believe, 21. His high with the Pacers ever was 27. His first 30-point game in a Pacers uniform. He hit his Pacers career high in the third quarter when he got to 28 points. 31 massive points from Toppin. 10 boards, no turnovers. Defense, he's still got to be better on defense. But he was so good on offense. He was the guy. The Pacers were trying to swing it side to side too much, and they were being a little too timid. And then when they would drive, they were making poor decisions. They weren't getting in the lane enough in this game. They did shoot it well, which saved them, but a lot of stuff that they needed to do better, right? 56 points in the paint is pretty solid, but needed to be better. Toppin was the guy who figured out, and Mathurin joined him, go straight at the rim. That's changed the game for the Pacers. 59 combined for those two. Haliburton was good with 20. Siakam ended with 15, but he had a rough night, but was still plus 11 because of the attention he drew, and he played good defense. That was a found a way to do it win for the Pacers, who really needed it. They have played really poorly, basically in all of February, and are somehow 4-3 of the month because they have 4 games like this where they just found a way. They hit the All-Star break 30-23. They're 4th in the East. What a win. We'll have much more about it on Locked On Pacers. You can check me out there and read my work on the Pacers in Forbes, and more Fever coverage coming on this channel. So if you're here for that, stay tuned. Thanks for watching.